This is Basilon. He is my Warpsmith currently, and actually one of the characters of the Inner Circle. So why don't we go ahead and just make him a little bit better? I ended up getting the kit of Suboden Khan because I just thought it was pretty neat, and the idea of a Warpsmith driving around on a grav bike for some reason appealed to me. I bought this God knows how long ago, even before he was on sale normally, so this is going to be the first kit bashing video, and honestly, I'm just going to go ahead and say right now, this was this is not my best attempt at doing a kit bashing video. I built the kit like normal, as you can see on screen, and yes, I know my nails are long in this. This was done a long time ago. My nails grow super fast. I don't want to hear it, but I built the kit semi-normally up until we get to oh, a chair. Sorry about that. Up until we get to about the, I want to say the point where Suboden's torso is starting to get put on. By the way, I just want to say, not these parts specifically, but the grav plates that go onto these pipings, the worst shit ever, but not as bad as me trying to fit that little fucking cap for the minigun on the front. It just would not go on for the life of me. There's not that much White Scar's iconography that's on the bike, but there are these like little symbols of the White Scars in this, like, I want to assume Chigoran text, Chigorisian. Is it Chigoran, Chigorisian? Which is it? It doesn't really matter, but there's a little bit of a text that does need to be shaved off, and we'll be shaving off more things as time goes on. The bike honestly went together pretty fine. I haven't built bikes before this at this point. I've 3D printed bikes, but they 3D printed one whole solid piece. But this was kind of interesting. This front plate didn't want to go on for the life of it, but I managed to force it into place as needed. Like I said, a majority of this is just normal building up until we get to a certain point. So far, I would honestly say this is a pretty good kit. It'll probably take you maybe an hour if you're building it correctly, maybe even less depending on how good of a builder you are. But then we get to this point, and those little flaps that you have to put on the grav plates were so fucking heinous to put on. That's probably the worst part about this entire kit. And there's a bunch of other things about this kit that make it not so kit bash friendly, but life finds a way. And this is the part also where the grav bike is forced onto the terrain, and you're going to see a comparison in a little bit. It's a bit too big to fit on a Warpsmith base. Warpsmith base isn't that big. So I do something called an executive decision, and we're going to be making a lot of these as time goes on, where I'm just going to cut a big chunk of something off. Not more than, how do I describe this? I'm going to cut less than what I actually need. And here's what we're talking about. Pieces that have White Scar's iconography, we're just not going to use. That shield is just not going to get used. We're going to have to cut off the White Scar symbol off on his groin plate, which is actually kind of reminiscent of what Basilon's old plate used to look like. I don't know what you would actually call this. There's a term for it. I don't actually know what the name of it is, because I'm not that much into like historical armor. I think it looks cool, but I'm here to play around with funny plastic men who worship demons and shit, or well, work with demons. Technically speaking, they don't work with demons. Also, just a good aside, when you're done shaving an area, putting some plastic glue over it to smooth it out is pretty good. Also, as always, you should probably dry fit most of your pieces, especially when it comes to like assembling the body, just to make sure it works well. But I already knew I was going to use Suboden's legs, and, or not his legs, but his torso as normal. I don't put it on. Well, here we go. I put it on now. I put his normal Primaris armor on because Primaris armor just looks fine, and it also has this not the Aquila, but I think actually it is technically the Aquila because it's like the feathers and the wings. But here we get to the good part, and we get to the actual kit bashing part. We're going to be using the kneecaps, or the whatever they call greaves of the Warpsmith, his backpack, and a few other places. So obviously, we have to make more executive decisions. I have to start hacking away at this beautiful, beautiful kit. And yes, I know things are not in focus. That is my fault. I thought I was going to be more in focus than I thought I was going to be, and I thought the autofocus was going to help me, but having a camera in your face while you're trying to do kit bashing is pretty difficult. As always, dry fitting to make sure that things are working, at least as working as much as they can. I already knew that the legs weren't going to, or the armor plating was going to fit properly, but it fits a lot better than I thought it was going to. As you can see here, that's not too bad. I'm gonna have to make a knee, or like an actual knee, or probably do a little bit of shaving. Spoiler alert, I don't do any more shaving, I just make another knee. But the actual legs of Primaris compared to Chaos Marines is not that bad, and we're not going to be using the Power Lance or the Power Glaive, whatever you want to call this thing, because Warpsmiths have a hammer, and you know, why not do this? This looks a bit cooler. A big ass hammer polearm thing. There's a term for that, I think. It's a great hammer. So more executive decisions. We're going to cut away the blade, and it is gone forever. I don't even know where it is anymore. I think it's on my desk. I might be wrong, but we're just going to go ahead and smooth and level out the hilt, or that's not really the hilt. Where the pole arm and the head of the hammer, or not the head of the hammer, the neck of the hammer actually meet. You would normally, and I would also recommend if you want to follow this for some reason, you would want to pin this. I did not have any thing to pin it with at the time, so I just glued it straight on, and I glue it straight onto the arm, and voila, that's a pretty good look. I'm not gonna lie, and when he gets on the bike, it looks even better. Yeah, putting him on the bike was the most fiddly process. Just look at that. That is a stance. I love that. Now, I forget what the next part is. Ooh, right. So the right leg, I can remove the plate. However, the left leg is entirely a leg. I cannot remove the plate on this. So we're gonna have to make yet another executive decision. As you can see here, the calf part of the calf to the foot, it's actually on level with Primaris. It's not that much of a shift, and the way that the foot is positioned is actually not that bad. So because this foot is here on this panel, I'm not proud of this cut. I'm gonna be real with you. It's a lot of cutting, a lot of what I can only describe as just mutilation of this beautiful, beautiful kit, and just, oh god, this part makes me squirm. Just like, ooh, I can't believe I did that. However, it's easier to do it this way than having to try to shave everything off with a blade over a very long course of time, where I might end up cutting myself, or I might end up damaging the rest of the bike. But you know, we still go in there, shave the rest of the foot off. It doesn't matter if the floor looks mangled, because the foot is going to be plastic glued onto the bottom of that anyways, or onto the top of it. I mean, still just dry fitting just to make sure how everything lines up. And there is a seam that goes along, like where the calf and the leg, or the calf and the thigh meet, because of how plastic works. It's gonna put a lot more tension on that, and it's gonna snap off much more easily, so it works out in the end. But dry fitting again just to make sure everything looks relatively decent. I decided to go ahead and work on the cape because I didn't want to have to stress out about that leg so much, so let's just go ahead and get something easy done. The thing I forgot, however, is that there is actually another part of this cape that I just never end up gluing on. I think I show it off later in the video. I just start fiddling with it, but honestly, here we go, this part. I ended up learning a few things. One, I tried to salvage this shoulder pauldron, but I also kind of didn't want to use it because he already has two normal Primaris shoulder pauldrons, and once again, just doing a little bit more dry fitting. Getting this hand to glue onto the handlebar and like onto the center console for the bike to control it was the most egregious and annoying fucking thing I've ever had to do in my entire life. And if I had to say any part of this was bad, it would be that. The grav plates were annoying, sure, but trying to get his hand to settle on there was horrendous. We did a little bit more shaving on the leg, and as you can see, it's not perfect, but it's good enough. I do end up going back and forth and reposition how I want him to be, because as you can see, he's not even like properly glued on already. But if we at least get one part of him settled, then we have a foundation of how we want this to look and how we want it to not necessarily flow. I don't know how you want to describe it, but just god damn, man, this is such a beautiful kit. I love it so much. So I also, of course, because I needed to like fill out the knee, I shoved some green stuff in there, tried to make a suggestion of a knee, and then we have to put the actual knee pad. I feel like I should have shaved the right side of the knee pad more, so it actually like sunk into the bike more. I do end up fixing this. It does stick out a lot more than it actually looks, but the knee pad is too good to give up. And also I don't really have a Primaris knee pad that I can use for this part. Same thing over here. Because there's no actual like leg here, we go ahead and make a suggestion of a leg by just shoveling a bunch of green stuff in that cavity, so that way the rest of the brace, whatever it's called, leg brace, leg armor, well, it's just called leg armor, that's simple enough, so that way the leg armor actually has something to sit up against. And yes, I do end up shaving this green stuff that's sticking out. I do end up shaving it away, and I think the only part I never fixed was the green stuff that's sticking out on the bottom. You're just like trying to mash it in and try to get some form in here, and just what I'm talking about, his fucking arm right here just kept popping off. But I'm also, once again, I'm kitbashing this whole thing. He wasn't meant to go, god damn it, he wasn't meant to go this way to begin with. So at this point, I just I'm kind of just getting frustrated and just taking certain parts that are never going to see the light of day with super glue. I'm dropping everything all over my desk, and he's relatively stable at this point. And I kind of give up on, I mean, not at this point, but in the future, I give up on trying to put this last remaining part of his cape, the right side of it, onto his body, because it's just, it was really annoying to try and get it actually settled in there. And this is the part that I was really dreading, was trying to get this, the Warpsmith specific backpack glued onto him. You have to glue the two halves together. At least I think I glued the two halves together. Not yet, actually. I really wanted to keep the wiring like cape thing that he had going on, but it was going to get too much in the way of the bike. And thankfully, I'm able to actually clip off a majority of it and then shave down the rest of his backpack on the bottom side. Though you're never really going to see it. So there was, I mean, you should still shave down your areas and clean them up, but there wasn't really that much of a point. And just dry fitting to make sure that it actually fits properly, and it does. I'm still knocking shit over on my desk. And this is the part that I was kind of dreading, is I was really afraid I was going to damage the part of the backpack that I wanted. The rest of the torso I didn't care too much for, but I needed the backpack so desperately. I needed everything to fit together and look fine. And I know I'm doing it off screen, you can't really see it, but I'm just trying to like figure out how I want to approach this to like clip off the rest of the actual body. And at a certain point, I'm just like, okay, the skull exhaust ports will probably fit, so there's no other way to really get this off. Let's just like, let's make like a clip here. Make sure that there's at least a little bit of a stress mark, so that way that part will just snap off, and then we just fucking send it. We like I said, we call these executive decisions to just tear that fucking piece off. And it fits fine. We don't need this to look pretty. We just want it to be good enough, so that way there's something for the back and the backpack to end up meeting. And if, like I said, I'm sorry, my camera work's not the best, but it fits. It looks good. There's a little bit of a void in there, so there's not really anything for the backpack to actually get glued onto. Like that, the Primaris have that little nub where you put the power pack on. So we just fill that area with green stuff and just make a suggestion of a nub or a slot for it to fill into, and get a little bit of super glue on my finger because I'm an idiot, and to press it into place. And that looks fucking great, honestly. It just, the silhouette that's being made is, it just looks like, honestly, just like a fucking demon just flying out of hell. And this is the part that I was talking about. Trying to glue this on after I realized that I was going to need the backpack and I wanted to keep all the mechadendrites, trying to put this into place was the most annoying and fucking egregious attempt I've ever made at kitbashing in my entire life. So I just gave up. However, Basilon does need a head, and I don't want to cannibalize the original model because I'm very proud of it. So I go ahead and grab a Legionary Sergeant that I have in my army that I never am going to get around to using because I'm going to redo all my Legionaries. And he doesn't have a neck joint right now, so we have to actually put a little bit of green stuff. And this is the part that, it's not necessarily the most stressful, but it's the part that probably matters the most, is getting the position of the head and where he's looking in accordance to how he's driving or how he would be approaching people. I want him to be looking downwards, but I don't want him to be looking straight down. But I also don't want the giant blob of green stuff to be completely exposed. And that's good enough, honestly. And now we get to the point where we start gluing down all of the mechadendrites, which was annoying in and of itself because stuff just did not want to stick. I forgot how annoying it was to put these on, and this is what we're left with. The new and improved Bacillon model. It's honestly probably my favorite kit bash that I've done in recent time, and I would probably say it is my favorite kit bash of all time as of current. There's problems with it. You can see that there's I had to put a little bit of nub of green stuff to be able to actually connect some of these pieces, because I think I had to shorten that mechadendrite. Is it the melter or is it the flamer tendril? I can't tell. The one that's on his bottom right. But overall, I think this looks really good. Yes, by the way, the front part of his hammer is not glued on. I forgot to glue it on. It's glued on now. We don't need to worry about that. But I would probably rate this kit bash in terms of difficulty, because there is a lot of cutting and there's a lot of trusting the process. I'd probably rate this around a 3.5 out of 5. It does require, at least at the time of me recording this, it required an expensive kit because Suboden Khan wasn't out yet, so I had to buy him from a reseller for like $90, and it also requires a Warpsmith kit. However, for 2 kits, you end up creating a very unique silhouette for a Warpsmith, which is probably not at all tournament legal. But that being said, that's kind of the joy of kit bashing, is that you get to make whatever the fuck you want. And in pairing a White Scar up with a Warpsmith, and obviously a, named Primaris character who gets a fucking cape and all these like cool little accoutrements or whatever the fuck you want to call them, you end up getting this very elegant but also just downright horrifying creation of a Warpsmith barreling down at you going 200 miles per hour with a fucking thunder hammer. This is definitely a kit bash that I'm proud of the most. There's still some things that need to be fixed. Like there's still some of the Chigoris glyphs on the bikes that I need to shave away. There's a little bit of holes that I'm probably going to end up replacing, and or replacing with like bits and stuff. And there's also one very important thing missing, which is his trophies, the Imperial Fist helmets. I don't have any Space Marine helmets with me to be able to use for that, so I'm gonna have to either 3D print or buy some more. But I had the idea of like like the cans or whatever. I can't think of the name of them. The cans of like the Just Married thing, of just having a bunch of Imperial Fist heads rattling around behind him. But overall, yeah, that's about it. This is not replacing the normal videos that I'm going to be making for the rest of the month. Still expect a narrative video, the Broken Tower video, and the Q&A video. Though that being said, the closer that I get to my move date, I am probably going to have to just do the Broken Tower video, and I might have to skip out on the narrative one. With that, all in all, I have been Dottie, the man in the Broken Tower, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.